the first thing we do when we have our project opened up is set the BPM. I prefer 123 because I find that to be a perfect balance, not too slow, not too quick, and it gives us enough energy for the style that we're looking for. Other BPMs that are usual for melodic techno are 125 and 128, but we're going to stick with 123. All right, let's get into the kick. So for the kick, we have this MIDI channel loaded up here that is grouped within the drums track or the drums group. And within this MIDI channel, we're going to load up a kick that we have prepared over here. There we go. This is the kick track. Going to shorten that out. And we're going to highlight this 8-bar section over here. So these are 8 bars. And hit Command-Shift-M or Control-Shift-M, depending on your operating system. So now we have this MIDI clip created for the kick. And since the kick's going to be playing on every 4th beat, we're going to right-click, hit 4th, and draw on our kick. The root note should be always on C3. So let's drag that down to C3. There we go. Remember, we're in 4th bar mode. And just duplicate that towards the end here. And I like working with a 16-bar framework, so I'm going to duplicate this layer over here, loop it up here. We're going to keep this section looped. Right-click, loop, perfect. Let's give this a quick playthrough here. Awesome. The reason I like this kick specifically is because it does have a bit of a transient at the start that isn't too loud. You can see that the rest of the kick is a bit louder and has a gradual fade down, and the transient's kind of quiet, I would say. And those kicks tend to cut through the mix very well and don't sound too dominant, but kicks are usually something that I just like to test around with and see which one fits best. And in some cases, I do some fiddling with the decay and sustain. For this case, we could probably reduce the sustain by 1 dB, but that depends on the rest of the track. We might play around with these parameters a bit later on. But for now, this is our main kick sound. And you can see that right underneath the kick track, we have a pre-kick audio track layer, and I did prepare this little pre-kick sweep that I use a lot, which is really great for creating a bit of anticipation before every kick. But right now it's on 0 dB, so it's quite loud. And we don't want that. We want it to be rather unnoticeable and very subtle. So first, let's tune down the kick a bit, give ourselves a lot of headroom to work with. Yeah, let's say minus 10 dB first. Now we're going to drag down the pre-kick sweep to minus infinity and slowly mix it in. Remember, this is just going to be a very subtle effect, so we don't want a lot of sweeping going on here. Yeah, this should be about right. We're going to keep it at that for now. All right, so now, after we've got the kick ready, with that little pre-kick sweep, we're going to move on to the hi-hat, the main hi-hat. You want to make sure you're using a sound that is very short, very snappy, preferably a closed hi-hat like this one here. We're just going to drag the start position to make sure the sound is always playing on the 1. Doesn't have to be perfect, just around here. And then we're going to reduce the volume of the hi-hat. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to turn up these two by around 5 dB. Tune down the sweep a bit. Cool. And now we can program our hi-hat. So I'm going to select this first 8-bar section here. Control-Shift-M to create a MIDI clip. And make sure that the hi-hat's also a bit lower in volume. Right-click, 8th bar mode. What type of a rhythm do we want to have? Yeah, every second 8th note sounds cool. Take this section, duplicate it over. Awesome. And duplicate this MIDI clip over here so we have that 16-bar loop. Cool. Now we're just going to make sure that we really reduce the volume a bit here. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the claps. And we're going to start with our main clap over here, which is clap 1. Going to do the same. Select the 8-bar region here. Control-Shift-M. Going to be working with MIDI. So take this MIDI clip, right-click, and make sure we're in 4th bars here, it's going to be on every second kick. So we want our claps to be placed right here. Duplicate that over here. And now let's select our sound. Oops. Ooh. So we have a few claps here. So this is going to be our main clap layer over here. Now let's give it a playthrough and maybe reduce the volume a bit here. Oh, that's a bit too high. Let's take these and pitch them down an octave. Take this MIDI clip over here, duplicate it over here. So now what we're going to do is reduce the decay and sustain time. So we have a shorter clap. Let's go for 300 milliseconds on the decay here. And perhaps like, oops. And then start gradually reducing sustain. Sounds about right. And then reduce the volume here. Awesome. So we have our first layer, but we're going to add some more layers on top of that. All right, so for clap 2, we're going to be using a bit of a longer clap sound. This one sounds quite cool, and we're going to do the same. And instead of starting from scratch, we can just take this MIDI and drag it down here. Using controller command, we can drag down samples like this. Reduce the volume here. Oh, sounds far too harsh. Let's do a bit of tweaking here. So let's actually do a bit of manual work here. I'm going to reduce the sound until here with using this little flagpole. Again, reduce the decay. Yeah, about like that. And then sustain. So we originally used a bit of a longer sound, but we just want that transient to come through. That's why we reduced the decay and the sustain significantly. So we have a bit of a transient layer to our existing clap. But I like using longer samples from the start because they do give us a bit more room to work with, more material to work with. It's better to have a longer sample than to have a shorter sample and not be able to lengthen it afterwards. So yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next layer, clap 3. Gonna do the same. Take this clap, put it down here. And for this layer, we're gonna use a snare. Kind of like this one, so I'm gonna drag and drop this. Reduce the volume a bit. Doesn't sound too good yet. What can we do? We're gonna use the same strategy. Reduce the decay here. Yeah, let's say around 8500 milliseconds. And then reduce the sustain. And mess around with the volume. Gonna do just a bit of quick mixing on the claps. And it's all about creating that slight difference with each and every individual clap. It doesn't sound like a completely new sound, but it sounds more like a layer. And if we remove a layer, it does become noticeable. If we add it back in, it's there. And because I'm a huge fan of layering, I'm gonna create another layer. So take the MIDI clip from clap 3, post it down to clap 4, and we're gonna take another snare with a bit of a different tone. Put it down here, give it a playthrough. Oh, too loud. Same thing. Reduce decay and sustain. Always give your individual layers a playthrough and make sure that every sound has its role within the layer. If you feel like a clap sound isn't doing that much, then throw it out, you know? You want to make sure that each and every single clap either has its role in the frequency spectrum or just sounds good to your ears. This one does add a bit of tone, a bit of high frequencies. I kind of like it. Let's keep it in. All right, so we're going to go for a final clap layer. Maybe just a regular clap with a bit of a lengthy sound towards the end. Let's go for this one. Yeah, this one sounds cool. Add that here. Copy the MIDI clip from above here. Paste it down here. Reduce the volume of clap 5. Yeah, this one's going to be a bit of a longer sound. Yet again, I'd like to reduce decay to around, let's say 200 milliseconds and sustain down. Yeah, I kind of like the tail of this sound. Again, chose a sound that has a bit of a ring out here. So we have each and every individual clap layer over here. And what we're going to do from now on is create a clap offbeat layer. So this is going to be a rhythmic variation to the claps, a clap that plays between every standard clap. Because all of these claps, they play on every second kick. Might be good to include a clap that plays on some offbeats or in between those claps. So let's draw on a MIDI clip here. And we're going to take this sound over here, put it in here. And we want the filler clap to be less noticeable than our main clap. So we're going to add a bit of a high cut here. Maybe dampen out the frequencies at around 1K. And let's add a delay right here at around 20-25% on third mode here. Shift the frequency up a bit. And now let's go into 16th mode here. Okay, so C#3 is going to be the root note. We're already getting that nice flatter effect with the delay. Let's give it a playthrough and select our favorite positions for the clap here. Yeah, cool. Might take this section and paste it over here. Duplicate that over here as well and reduce the volume. Awesome, so now we have the claps ready. We might do a bit of mixing on them later on, but we have the core rhythm established already. So let's move on to the next section.